Okay, review time. New release this week, something which I know nothing about particularly, but I saw it and I thought something a little bit different, certainly an updated kit. And Meng seem to have, over the last sort of year at least, sort of really spread their wings on what they do and everything else. And as a company, seem to be really getting their act together. So I thought, right, new release, we'll go for it. So this is the Meng 148 scale. This is the Messerschmitt, the ME410, which was their sort of performance aircraft in a fighter and bomber role. So this one is this high-speed bomber, as you can see, very nice artwork on the box, which we imagine going through. We've got a couple of options on the box, as we can see, which is quite nice. I know what we've got on the other side, and a little bit of kit info and the usual bump down in there. Now, as I said, I haven't actually had this one apart yet, so it'll be quite interesting to see what we've got. Usual thing, we've got these nice crisp bags. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just find the interesting bits first and we'll work our way backwards. So we have all that out of the way. Okay, so we'll stick them there. Okay, so straight off the bat, we'll just move straight in here as we can see it. So we've got some nice photo etch. Yeah, it's a little bit thick. It's not as thick as some of them are, but down here we've got provisions for, we've got some harnesses, some black belts, we've got some radiator grills, we've got some over the shoulder ones, we've got some plates looking down there, we've got some sensors, looks like the pitot tubes, things like that on there, and a little guy at the back, which I presume is probably some type of hinge or rudder. Okay, we've got the decals. As you can see, we've got some little cutouts in them, I should imagine. They look very nice, very in register. We've got the swastika, obviously, in two halves. There's still it seems quite vague now on swap stickers, and I don't really want to have this conversation because there's no right or wrong to it, but certainly some manufacturers print them as a whole. Some of them break them in two because there is laws around Europe about the use of the swap sticker. I assume a lot of the more foreign companies, they tend to don't want to go down that route, so it's easier to break them in two. But if you've ever wondered why the swap sticker is in two, that's the reason why, because certainly it was outlawed after World War II. So into the instructions, we've got the same thing. This is their LS range of things, which is the number 3 kit, and I must admit I'm not aware of what are the 1 and 2. So we've got the usual blurb on it about being called, it was the nickname the Hornet, about it, and in multiple languages you can see. Usual thing, so we've got call outs of what's it for, so you can actually have it as in KG 51 France 1944, or you can do it in ZG 1 1943 December in Sicily. And then we move on to the actual parts themselves going through. So quite nicely detailed, looks like it's going to be is the gun area. We've got the ammo chutes going in. We've got the photo etch being used for these lap belts, as we were saying about painting and putting them in. All looks quite nice. Then up further details of actually putting on the side panels, the instrument panel, the bulkhead going through, and then we're working to the rear part, where it looks like we've got the top of the fuel system back there as it all goes through. The seats going in. Instrument panel, and this is for the rear, which I presume is the sort of navigator, wireless operator, rear gunner, and everything else. These are which are the interesting bits, because these are the rear gun assemblies. Now these are on turrets, which the only way I can describe it is like an AT-AT walker or scout walker from Star Wars, the ones on the side. Okay, so I don't know if that's where old George Lucas got his inspiration from. But anyway, we've got down here the control devices for the system, and these are these guns which go on the side and face backwards. Now I assume they rotate up and down, which gives you pretty much good fire control for the rear defence of the aircraft. Landing gear, then everything going in, as you can imagine. Then we've got some of the weaponry systems, so we've got some rocket pods here, some freefall bombs, and then rudder, and I assume, yeah, this is the photo etch we were looking at, so we've got some nice photo etch details going in at the top and some other ones. Belly plates going in, looks a little bit complex in its design, the way it goes through, but as I said, we haven't done it yet. What is interesting, which I didn't realise, this thing's got an internal bomb bay on the nose, which must have made the trimming of the aircraft after weapon delivery quite a handful to have it so far up the front. But certainly we've got a closable bomb bay, so you can either have it in the closed position or the open. Nice touch. Complicated glass working on this. We'll look at it in a moment, but as you can see, we've got multiple bits of glass going to be going in, and we have a choice then on the canopy set for the front and the rears. And then again, as you can see, more of that glasswork going in, more about the undercarriage. The engines, nice little touch here. So we've got actually detailed engines, which could obviously be livened up and uncovered. I assume we'll have a look at that in a moment, see how they cover up. And again, you actually are making, we've got a bulkhead for the actual engine into the wings and everything going through. And yes, you can probably have them open, so you could have these, the cowlings off of the actual engine to actually expose it. It would be a nice little touch. Engine system going on, we've got the flaps and the ailerons going on there, more bombs onto the outside, sorry, the inner pylons if you like. Then we've got rockets on the outers. This thing's quite a beast when it comes to weaponry. Fitting of the gear, pretty standard, the rear housing to the engine. We've got, this is the radiator ducts obviously for the engine, talking about those going in, and then a mirror for the other side completely, as we'd expect. And then your wings get attached. So this is the ones we were talking about. So obviously you've got the standard colours. Funnily enough, these are actually called out in Vallejo paints, which is a little bit different. First time I've seen them in here called out with them. And then actually you do get, yeah, that's just the same replaced over. And again, the slightly different, the more the sort of freehand instead of the die-cut mask system on there. And there's those guns on the side again as we go through. And then obviously there's your call outs, which is quite nice because you don't know the Vallejo colours. They've actually got them down here as in the RLM sets for them as well, so at least you don't have to go reaching for your conversion charts. So if we start this in some semblance of order, if we start at the bottom here, so we've got the wing set. Nice. So we've spoken about their kits before, and as we've said, they really seem to be getting there with the level of detail, seems to be increasing with it, the accuracy, certainly flash point of view, things like that, which is said day to day, you don't expect it anyway. But this is sprue B, as we can see, and I will just drop this top camera down a bit instead of doing it digitally, it tends to be clearer, and you can see on the side one. Hopefully you can catch it in the light there. Very nice recessed panel lining. Okay, the riveting looks a little bit heavy, and come to think of it, when you're looking at some of these, I don't know how well the particular cameras will pick this up, maybe this top one will work better. You can see these, they look a little bit heavy, shall we say. And when I say a little bit heavy, I'm just saying, you know, it'll take a wash fantastic, but it may be a little bit out of scale, because I'm thinking that's probably about as wide as your thumb in real life. Anyway, we've got some raised details down here, which is quite a nice touch. Again, if we can catch them in the light, there we go. You've got these nice details all down here, so you've got a nice mix of raised and recessed lines in here. As I said, no sign of flash. Ejector pin marks are all nice and flush in there, so we don't have to worry about those. But this one is moulded both sides one piece, so it's quite a nice touch. If we just get the other, try and do this in some sort of order. So here we have the lower wing section. Again, actually it looks to be a little bit finer for some reason. But anyway, lovely riveting detail running down these panels, which is what we sort of expect with these. You can catch it in the light there, very nicely done. Very nice, very crisp moulding. We've got no signs of any problems at all with any of that. But as I see, you've got some nice ribbing down here. I wouldn't worry about the ejector pin marks because you're not going to see them. You have an engine on top. Okay. This thing here, which seems to be the latest thing, I'm guessing it's because of the way injection moulding works. But these little go nowhere trees, they're a pain because you have to clean them up, and then obviously if you're doing clean up, you've got to try and keep it level and everything else. It just seems to be there more and more over everything. I can understand the point of view because you don't need as many gates actually on, but when you're putting them in and they go nowhere, it's like, I can't understand that one. Anyway. And the good bit. So now we've got, this is sprue A. Okay, so in sprue A we've actually got the fuselage, and again you can see very nice recess detailing all over this. The riveting, okay, I think it might be a bit of a pain when you come to sand, and you know, the riveting just tends to fade off slightly on the top, shall we say, all right? But you know, by the time you filled it and sand it and everything else, you're gonna have to put them back in anyway, so we're not too worried about that. Got this nice little bit of raised armour on the sides. All the holes seem to be very nice. I can't fault this anyway. It's a very nice, clean, crisp kit. Minimal interior detail, so we've got a little bit of details on the inside, so we've got some formers and ribbing and various things going on here, but as I say, you wouldn't go massively overboard with it. But as you say, it's a very sharp, I think is the way I describe it, kit. There's no soft molds, it just fades away or anything else. And that is the thing we've been finding with Meng recently. And because they've sort of been doing a lot of smaller kits, sometimes when they upscale you lose the detail a little bit, it gets a little bit softer, but certainly not in this case. And a very good example is these parts here, because you have got extremely, very nice, very sharply detailed areas. So we're looking up here, as you see all this equipment. Some nice detail in there, some wiring detail, take a lot of wash, lovely. Got riveting detail, but just down on this floor area down here, again, extremely nicely detailed. We've got wiring running around all these parts, so it will look lovely when it's all completely done. We've got these guns, which they look a little bit fragile, but they seem to be okay, nicely molded, considering they're quite long parts, even right down to tiny little rudder pedals. You can probably see just down in these, very nicely done. But generally, as you say, looking around it, instrument panels, some nice raised detail on this, and everything else. So I don't think you're immediately going to be looking for aftermarket. I think you're going to be able to build this pretty much out of the box, no problem at all. So some of the other parts, as you can see, it's not a simple kit. We've got quite a few trees in here. So again, we've got various things. So we've got the belly plates down here. These are the rear to the engine. Some nice moulding around here, as we can see. We've got the seats. And again, usual thing is ejector pin marks, very well thought out. So things like down here in these radiator ducts, ejector pins are out of the way, nicely taken care of, no problem at all. Again, these obviously we're not going to see anyway. But the gun areas, again, very, very nice. The wheels, so we've got the compressions down here with these sort of gaiters over the top protecting, very nicely done. But all these small parts, extremely nice, crisp, clean, and then no ejector pin marks inside wheel bays and things. Again, very well thought out, very nicely done. And again, even bigger parts like this one here does not have an ejector pin on the inside. Yeah, smaller parts do. Just the way they get it out of the mold, I suppose. So we've got duplicates here. Here's the engine in here again. So we'll only go through one. So sprue tree F, as you can see it down here. So you've got a nice prop, no flash, goes all the way to the end, no problem at all. All these small parts, very nicely crisply molded. Detail on the engine, okay, it's detail, but you may want to go around and liven it up. Certainly like we've been doing in our recent builds, a little bit of wiring, a little bit of tiny scratch building, things like that. You can really make a difference with minimal effort. Okay, these cowls, very nicely done, riveting detail all over those. You have got ejector pins on the inside that are quite big and noticeable, so if you are going to display it open, either lay them down on the flat or you sand them off and take care of them. Detail on the wheels, very nice again, so you've actually got Phoenix Hamburg actually on the tyres and the radial size themselves. So these tyres apparently are 1015 by 380 for all you want to know. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, very nice detailed parts, extremely nice and crisp. Last one up, weapons. Okay, so this is our forward bomb bay, which is our little weird design. As you can see here, we've got nice riveting detail onto the inside of this. Looks very, very nice, no problems at all. We've got the bomb racks. Again, be quite nice by the time you put those sway braces on. The bombs themselves, two halves as you'd expect. Nothing to get excited about. Very nice. What's a nice little touch is this actually. How well the camera can actually read this. We catch it in the light or side camera, whichever one. But as you can actually see, it says H7, H8, H8, H9 and H10, which actually are the sprues for it, but it's actually stamped on the part. So there is obviously a real reason why they are, because of the curve of the wing. So just to make sure you don't get them in the wrong order, they've actually put them on the part, which I've often said it would be very helpful when you get multiple things look the same, if they actually just stamp them on, and lo and behold, they've actually done it. So that is a very, very nice touch there. If I just zip this down to show you, because it's the first time I think I've seen it. So there they are. I haven't actually, don't think I've noticed that on a normal production kit before for small parts like this. Obviously, in the old days, you used to get bigger ones. They used to have it, but certainly not on something so small. So yeah, nice little touch that. Right, okay, the clear parts. Let's have a delve in here. These are our last ones up. So we have this technique of double wrapping. I am a massive fan of, because it really does make a difference. And this is just, it's a very flexible film. It's not like this, which is quite rough and crispy. This is very, very soft, so it won't scratch your clear parts, which, okay, a lot of people are going to turn around and say, oh yeah, that's a bit overkill, but it does keep them beautifully done. Okay, unfortunately, if I'm honest, when we look at these parts, you may be able to see when you look through, it's a little bit distorted. I know the camera lights are bouncing off of this all over the place, but they are very nicely clean. We've got no cobwebbing on them at all. Very sharp. It's just, it's a complex curve. It's quite thick, and trying to keep them crystal clear would be quite a nightmare, I should think. So, seeing as they've made the effort to put this in here, I'll try and get it back. You've got another one which is exactly the same. You just get two different types of front windscreen, and then it's cutting through it all. Again, these are double wrapped. Nice touch. If you can get in it, it sort of sticks to itself. It's weird stuff because it's not sticky. Don't think this is sticky. It's actually not. It just for some reason hangs on. This is what we're talking about. It's quite complex because obviously you've got the crew access coming in through this side. Okay, so you're going to have to put all these together, and putting clear parts together is never easy. There's loads of stuff out there. My one of choice, to be honest, is crystal clear. I find, from a personal point of view of the stuff I've used, it dries the absolute clearest out of them all, which is quite nice. But again, looking through, it's a little bit of wobble. It's quite thickly obviously done, but it is an extremely complex shape. I don't know how well you can see the curve on this one up here. It is extremely curvy and everything else, but they are nice and clear, crystal clear. You don't have to worry about that. This one here, if you look at that, we have no distortion at all in there, and that's what we're talking about. Obviously when you're on a curve it's very hard, but if I pop this one down here, you can probably see it sort of magnifies because of the curve and everything else. But apart from that, the others are very, very nice. No distortion whatsoever. So there we go. That is the Meng one. Okay, so the price of this particular one is £47, which 1/48 scale bomber is going to be say big. I don't think that's too bad. You're not going to need any out of the box particularly. I'm not thinking there's any mass mistakes on this one. The detail's good enough to build it straight out of the box. So really, sub 50 quid for a 48 scale aircraft, pretty much the norm these days. So definitely well worth getting this kit if you're into your Axis later war aircraft, especially the sort of 410. I think never really stretched its legs. It never really got into mass production, things like that. Nice kit. Go and get it.